up, guys?
Howdy, brothers.
Welcome back to another episode of Whiskey and Water.
Welcome back. Sorry that we've ghosted y'all for a couple weeks.
Sorry. Things got crazy. But here we are. We're here. I feel like every intro for the last 3 episodes has been like, hey, sorry about Monday, but we're here now.
We're here now.
We're just gaslighting our audience.
100%. We're like, no, we're here.
We're breadcrumbing them.
Yeah. But we do have a great episode today with Denise Lee. She is the founder of Alala and an overall amazing entrepreneurial woman. So we're super excited for this episode.
We're super excited. She got her MBA from NYU. She has a long list of accolades and accomplishments, and I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I feel like a lot of founders say that they want to be transparent and whatever, but like I really feel like she was so honest and open about her journey. And even like now, I really appreciated how she was like, everyone's situation is different, you know, like she was very just like non-judgmental of other people's journeys. And something that's unique about her journey, which I think is actually really cool, and we talk a lot about in this episode, is after she got her MBA from NYU, she worked with Chris Birch, aka co-founder of Tory Burch, for 3 years, which is so badass and such an accomplishment. And she talks about her journey with him and everything she learned from having that hands-on experience. And I just really, really enjoyed our conversation. So I know you guys are going to love it.
Love it. And before we get into that, let's do our little spiel. You know, a little high and low. We'll catch up.
High and low. So I would say, keeping it real with you guys, if I had to pick a low, it would be, and this is like straight up. Okay. My low is that last month we thought we were going to pay ourselves for mood.
Oh my God, bro.
And we were like, you know, above our threshold or whatever.
A good amount above. Yeah. It was going to be a nice little payout.
We were like a week before the end of the month. Bestie, we were like, this is the month we've been waiting for so long. We're paying ourselves out like a decent amount for mood. That didn't happen.
Slap in the face.
That didn't happen. Got to the end of the month. The account was back at our safety number. We're like, okay, love that for us.
It was under the safety number.
That's the reality of owning a business and being an entrepreneur, is that you don't pay yourself sometimes.
Yeah, and we were like, deadass, where did that money go?
Yeah,
money just fucking disappears, bro.
That was a big bummer, but you know, we get into actually even this conversation, we talk a lot about that and just kind of like being a founder is glamorized and having your own business, but sometimes that's the truth. And then my other low is that my laptop broke because my puppy was chewing on it. So that's
super fun.
Love that. And my Apple Care expired, so there's that. But moving on, my high is that we made 5
Okay.
My brain was buffering.
People checking the app to see if the podcast paused.
Influencer assistant course sales yesterday, and that is completely passively, and that's our highest sales day. And it's organically, passively from, you know, running ads, and that is so exciting, and something we've literally been working on since the conception of this course was to have kind of this passive webinar funnel system set up, and it's set up, ads are running, and we made our sales yesterday, and that is so exciting.
Yeah, and we're on a journey, such a goal to hit 30 this month. Yes. So we are on track, which is incredible and feels so surreal. Fun. So we're very excited about that.
Yes.
My low is that I was like deathly sick.
Oh God,
like the sickest I've been since Rona, you know, like I could not like move from bed. I felt so shitty. My chest was like on fire. Like I was like, there was a second where like I got anxiety because I was like, what if this is it for me?
Oh my God.
I don't get sick often. So like when I do, it's like the end of the world. Like I genuinely thought I was like on my deathbed. I was like concerned. Like if someone didn't check on me, I was like, they're out of my life. Like there's people removed off the roster simply because they saw my stories that I was sick and didn't check on me. And that's valid. Because if a man's not checking on me and he's simply on the roster, then he doesn't deserve to get put on the bench. So that's my low. And then my high is also the So Am sales yesterday. I'm completely attributing those sales to the fact that I am healthy now,
Yeah.
because health is wealth, money
Mm-hmm.
is health, money is wealth. Wait, this all makes sense. Health is wealth and money is wealth. Therefore, wealth is health. So,
Yes. And health is wealth.
yeah, that's what I said. She's like, hear me out. Exactly
Crazy
what you just said.
idea. Oh, so
And we're gonna get
good.
into our pro tip. We're gonna run a couple minutes late to film this next podcast episode. You guys are welcome. We're doing back to fucking backs. But we're gonna knock out our pro tips. I think we have good pro tips. Liv, do you want to go first?
Yes. Okay, my pro tip for today, and we're gonna keep it short and sweet, is if you're having if you're struggling creating a habit, if you're finding it challenging, like month over month, or even year after year, is you're like, oh man, I would really love to like do this or implement this, and you just can't get it done. My pro tip is to make a bet with someone else about a habit that they are having a hard time. Basically, me and Tyler did this.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
we
yeah.
have
Yeah.
a bet going on for this month that I can't wake up every day at 7 a.m. and that he can't do 3:30 on the treadmill every day. So
Period.
that, like all you need sometimes is that little bit of fire under your ass, and that like competitive factor to get your ass out of bed, or to like get your
Yeah.
ass to the gym, whatever it is. So that's fun. I've been enjoying that. And I've
Yeah.
been slaying it this month. And I'm like, wow, this is all I needed the whole time. So that's my pro tip. If you're having a hard time with a habit, make it a bet with a friend or a partner and make it a competition.
And make sure the stakes are high.
Yes.
High enough for you to not want to lose.
Yes.
I don't even want to know what you guys have bet on this.
It's just our pride, which is high stakes.
High stakes.
Very high.
My pro tip, not to be an influencer, is this portable charger that I've been fucking using that you plug into the wall and it charges, and then it has 3 different outlets. So it can charge my phone, and it can charge like my gym headphones, and then it can charge whatever the third charger, or like a laptop, dude. And it has been a game changer. And I'm not like a girly that stays charged up. So having that like in my fucking back pocket, I had it in my car today and it charged my freaking headphones on the way to the gym. I was like, this is such a pro tip. So I will link it for you guys, maybe like on my stories or in the show notes.
Shop my
and
storefront.
Shop my storefront. But it's honestly genuinely like the best charger. So that's my little pro tip. Stay charged up. It makes your life so much better.
Love that. Okay, I think that's it. You guys make sure to give this episode a full listen through. Every minute of it is good, including the very last minute. And if it inspires you, please make sure to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to our show. And also make sure you're following us on socials so you can stay up to date.
All right, brothers, enjoy the episode. All right, guys, and we are live with Miss Denise Lee, the founder of Alala and an overall entrepreneurial women's led queen. Thank you so much for hopping on with us. And for our audience who doesn't really know too much about you quite yet, get them a little bit familiar with a little bit of who you are and your story.
Yeah, so my name is Denise Lee, and I'm the founder and CEO of Alala. It's a brand that I've had for 9 years. And we've been self-funded this entire time. And, that's something I'm really, really proud of. I grew up in Singapore, and I've spent half of my life also here in New York now. And it's been such a journey, just, kind of going on this, building a business and going on this journey. It's been really fun.
Love that. So tell us a little bit about what inspired you to start Alala, a little bit about your background and kind of like how you even entered this space at all.
Yeah, so I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Both my mom and my dad were entrepreneurs as well. And so they were always like very supportive of me, like going out and doing my thing. And, for a lot of my like younger years, I was like, oh, I want to do it, but like, what's my idea, right? Like, what's my big idea that I'm going to do? And so a lot of, I think my younger years was spent trying to just prepare myself for when I got that idea. So after school, I worked in fashion and marketing. And then I also decided to go back to business school full time at NYU, because I was like, okay, like it'll give me like a little bit of foundation in like accounting and, like cash flow management and all the stuff that I need to potentially start my business. So I went into business school kind of trying to gather as much of that knowledge as possible, which was an amazing experience. And I think after business school, I started working for a retail entrepreneur as well. And his name is Chris Birch, and he started Tory Birch with his then wife, Tori. So that was an incredible experience. He's a very successful person. And, I call it like my second business school when I worked for Chris, because I was working for him in kind of a chief of staff role, which meant that, I went to all his business meetings. I was moving a lot of his like business projects forward. At the time, he was actually starting 3 or 4 new brands all at the same time. So, my role consisted of not just like being with him as he was building these brands, but like even going to China to go to the factories with him and,
Wow.
touring real estate all over the United States to open stores.
Wow.
So it was really an incredible experience to, be next to somebody who has been so successful at something that I wanted to do. And I worked for Chris for 3 years. In that time, I actually was training for a triathlon. It was like on my bucket list that I wanted to like do a triathlon. I don't know how it came
Casual.
together, but it was. So I was
On
like,
my bucket list. I just want to run an
okay, I'm
Ironman.
gonna train for a triathlon. And while I was doing that, because I'd always been in fashion, I love fashion. I wanted to buy new gear, right? And this was like about 10 years ago. So it was definitely a while ago. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go like shop for new active wear to like motivate me to like train and feel good about it. And I went and I walked all the stores in New York, and I was like, nothing like really excites me about like the big brands out there. They just didn't like reflect my sense of style. And again, there were not as many brands as there are now. And that was like my moment where I was like, oh, like maybe there's some white space for, more fashion forward athleisure brand and activewear brands that kind of reflects like this like on the go life that we all used to have, right? And that was the beginning of Alala, basically. I was like, okay, I feel like this is a good idea. And I worked on it for almost a year before I quit my job. So really like making sure, was there true business here? Was there something that I felt like I could do? And eventually, I left Chris and started Alala.
Wow. And
So cool.
I'm sure that was a really scary leap for you to take.
Yeah, I mean, it's always scary to kind of go into the unknown. And I feel like, it's very true when people say, it's nice. It's actually good if you're a little bit more naive, right? When you head into it, because if you knew all the obstacles and the challenges, you guys can relate, like that are going to come your way, you'd probably be like, no, thanks. Like, I'm just going to stick to like this job that pays me a good salary.
Stable. You show up, you do your work, you leave.
Exactly. And I think, the thing about entrepreneurship, and I wonder if this is true for you guys, like you can read all the stories, you can read all the books, you can hear other people talking about it, but it doesn't really feel so real until you get into, your first like really bad moment of business, or like that first big challenge you're facing, or like the first negative feedback you're getting from somebody. I don't think any amount of like, preparation can really truly prepare you for that.
So
100%.
true.
And that's so well put. You can read all about failure. You can read all about hardships, but like truly being in the thick of it. And that's why like, throughout our entire entrepreneurship journey, it's been so incredible to have a co-founder and partner, because we have taken the biggest L's you could ever fucking like think of. And like, thank God we have, someone else there as like a sounding board, because, and what did I see this on, or like I read it, or like I saw this on like a TV show the other day, and it was like, and it was in regards to relationships, but it was like, some day, or maybe it was a TikTok. Of course, it's always TikTok. And it was like, some days, like your partner shows up as 80%, and then the other person's like, dude, I got 20 today. And the other person's like, perfect. As long as we can get up to 100, like we're good, right? Sometimes it's more 50-50. Sometimes it's like, hey, dude, sometimes I have 5 or 10%, and I need you to kind of pull up that slack. And that's kind of what it's been for our entrepreneurship journey. But I can't imagine you as a solopreneur having to go through, you know, these hardships by yourself. And kind of that being said, what was the first hardship that really made you like take a step back or consider things?
There are so many. I feel like sometimes with like great opportunity also comes so much responsibility. So, for example, you know, we got into Bloomingdale's like our second season, which is crazy. It's like within a year of being a business, like
Yeah.
Bloomingdale's placed an order with us.
That's
Wow.
insane.
And I think anybody would be like so excited, like, oh my God, like Bloomingdale's placed an order. That's amazing. But I think what you don't realize is like all the things that come with getting Bloomingdale's their order, right? We had to like get set up on all these systems that we didn't have. I had to figure out, I remember this so clearly, like, you know, those little like tags you have on your clothes with the barcode on it? They were like, okay, we need barcodes on all the stuff you're sending us.
Yeah.
I'm like, where do I get a barcode from? Like,
yeah.
so
You're
where
like
do I
writing it
go?
out. You're like
I know, I'm like,
0,
where?
0.
Like where? How? Like how does it translate into like the little lines, you know?
Yeah.
It was like so exciting to kind of get the order, but then like you're like, oh my gosh, like, and then they have like different packing instructions, like different all of this stuff, you know. So like just that realization that like, oh my gosh, like this is big, but I also can't like fuck it up. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
It's like fake it till you make it, honestly.
Yeah, like makes your stomach drop a little. So that was a big one for me at the beginning.
Yeah, that's huge. I would have been like Googling how to get
Well,
barcodes
no
on
one,
clothing.
who
Like,
teaches you that? Like even in fashion
Nobody.
school, I don't know if they like walk you through.
the
Hey,
logistics
this,
side
yeah,
of it.
the legit like you know, once Bloomingdale's hits you up, this is what you're gonna do. It's like
Yeah.
no, it's like this looks pretty and this looks nice, but like
Yeah.
not like the business side.
Yeah.
And kind of what you said that you got your MBA from NYU, which is huge. That's, I mean, congrats, that's amazing. Do you feel like that that education was kind of pivotal or like completely necessary for your business?
So I'm gonna say no.
Okay.
And
Oh,
I've
hot
talked about
take.
this a lot. I think that anybody who's thinking about starting a business and going to entrepreneurship, like taking yourself out of the business world and your working world for 2 years to, you know, study something, honestly, I don't think will serve you as well as maybe going to work at a startup for 2 years or, you know,
Mm.
getting more immersive experience in like the industry that you
Yeah.
have.
Hands
From a
on.
more like startup-y, small team, entrepreneurial environment, if I had to do it again, like that's what I would do. I would have gone
Yeah.
to work at like Rent the Runway or somebody who
Yeah.
kind of had that setup so that I would know a little bit better what it was like when I went in to do it myself.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah,
Not
that's
to
such
mention, you go ahead, Liv.
that's just such an interesting take, and I'm glad you mentioned that because we are both college dropouts. And it's a topic we often talk about on the show is like, whether it's the experience or the degree, and like,
Mhm.
if I think especially with our generation, we're even more like we on the wave of knowing that we don't necessarily need
Mhm.
college as much as our parents did. But I
Yeah.
really love that take, and I would be curious to know what you feel like you did gain out of getting your MBA, and then versus what you feel like you gained out of your 3 years with Chris Birch.
Mhm. So this is a great question. For me, I think business school kind of gave me like that. It gave me a degree, right?
Right.
So it gave me like the knowing that I knew as much as anybody else who went to business
Okay.
school,
Right.
right? And I feel like maybe you can relate to this as well. Like, okay, whoever graduated undergrad, like logically, you guys probably have even more experience from them, but they have like this piece of paper that they're like toting around. And, you know, I think for people who don't go to business school or didn't go to business school, they're like, oh, I wonder what they teach in business school that I'm
Right.
missing
Yeah.
out on, right?
We've
That's
said
us.
that a million times.
That's
We're
us.
like, we'll fuck up something really obvious and we're like, that's what they teach in business school.
But it's not true. So
Yeah.
for me, like
That makes us feel a lot better.
it gives you a sense of like, okay, I know as much as like anybody else who has their MBA, like whatever.
Right.
But I think what I learned from Chris is obviously so much more just like the tactics and strategy of like running a business, and being
Mhm.
able to have one-on-one access to somebody who's built, you know, huge retail companies and huge brands, just being able to ask him all the things, you know, like what would you do in this situation? Or like, why are you looking at it this way when everybody's doing it that way? You know, just
it's invaluable.
Access is incredible. And not only like to Chris, but because I was like sitting in on all the business meetings with him and all that stuff, like I had access to like all the other entrepreneurs he was meeting with and all the other amazing, incredible business people. And so just to be in the room with those guys and, you know, listen and absorb what they're saying was like better than any business school I could have gone to.
Wow, that's so incredible.
Yeah, and not to mention you're getting paid for it, and you're not having to pay for it. Rather, you know, like instead of like going to business school, like having that hands-on experience, and obviously getting paid for it,
getting paid to learn.
Getting paid to learn. Like, what more can you ask for? And it's great that you also had a positive experience with him, because I think a lot of people could probably imagine that would be like very much a Devil Wears Prada sort of situation. And I'm sure, you know, sometimes it might have been, but it's just awesome that you were able to like, you know, be privy to a lot of those conversations and kind of even have him as a mentor to, you know.
So he's still a mentor to me today. You know, we are still really close friends. And I think something to think about too is an interesting story. Like when I applied to work for him, like the job posting was very vague. It like didn't really say too much, you know, but it said that it was in retail, it was working for an entrepreneur, and it was like kind of a global thing. And I remember like this was right after business school. My friends were like, "What? Like, are you gonna go be like his assistant? Like, are you gonna go like get coffee and be like scheduling meetings for him? You know, like,
you're like, if I have to."
Like, aren't you too good for that? Like, you just graduated from business school. And like, there was so much resistance, like coming from like some people in my life. And I was just like, no, like, I think this is going to be amazing because of all the access I'm going to get, you know, because of all like the knowledge I'm going to learn. And it was really interesting to see like that I was looking at it from such a different angle than like other people were, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that I kind of like took that leap and did it. And yeah, did I have to get him coffee like once in a while? Like, sure, I did, you know, and I had to like call the airline sometimes and change our tickets to go somewhere. But like the benefit of like having a role like that was so much more than like all the little like shitty things.
Totally.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, if you have to do a little coffee run here and there, like that's not even a super shitty task. I'm like, if I could pick up some coffee for for my role, I would do it all the time. I do it. I still do it to this day. I'm like, Liv, you want coffee on the way to our stuff?
Yeah, that's such great advice, because I do think, especially when it comes to job opportunities, you know, there's this automatic like filter that every decision in our brain goes through of like, what are other people going to think, right? Like we think about what we want and then we think about how it's going to look to everyone else in our life, like naturally, right? It's just like human instinct. And I really love that advice of, you know, you do have to be so careful about who you're taking advice from and listening to your own instinct about things. I just read a quote in a book that was like pretty much like, the stronger you feel about something, the less you need approval from others.
Yeah.
And it's so true. You have to stick to your gut, and if you know what's right for you, block everyone else out. Like horse blinders on, don't care, because like look at how that, you know, change the trajectory of your life. And if you would have listened to those people, and granted, you know, they have your best intentions in mind, I'm sure it's, you know, all people who love and care about you, but sometimes you just have to black it out and just listen to yourself and bet on yourself.
I totally agree. And again, like it's one of those things that I've learned the hard way, exactly that lesson. Like, don't take advice from people who, you know, haven't like walked the path that you want to walk. Even if they do have your best intentions at heart, because they just don't have the experience to know and see like the path that you're going on.
Yeah. Love that.
And when you started Alala, what would you say was like, I guess I'm trying to put this like eloquently, like when you first started, like where do you even start with that? Were you like drawing up samples? Like how does that even work? Starting from like nothing, you know, also working, you know, this full-time job. What did that look like for you?
So the two like actionable things I did before, like I'm not a designer. I don't design anything. I don't know how to do it. So three things. One is that I recognize that I didn't know how to do that. So I
Fair.
started looking for somebody who could help me. So I specifically was looking for an apparel designer, an activewear designer to work with me on like building the line out. So that was one. And the two other things that I did while I was still working full time was one, like think of a name and try and like get the trademarks and the URLs and all that stuff done. And the third thing I did was put together like a brand deck. Like, what did I want Alala to stand for, to be as like a brand? And those were all like really important tools and actions that, you know, kind of helped me set the foundation to actually start the business.
Okay. And how did you land on the name Alala?
So Alala is the name of a Greek goddess, and it stands for battle cry, which I
Love
think is
that.
so beautiful for, you know, a women-run brand for women. And it was interesting because like I had like hundreds and hundreds of names, and Alala was actually like one of the first ones that I picked out.
Nice.
And I kind of left it to the side, and I was like, oh, maybe there's something better, da da da. Like you just go through this whole process of like thinking about like a million different names. But like going through that process and then like, you know, finding URLs is a real practical thing that we all have to think about now, right?
Yeah.
It's like making sure the URLs were available, the trademarks were available on certain names. So it all ended up coming back to Alala, which was one of the first ones that I picked out.
Love that. And then at what stage did you know that you wanted to like leave Chris? Because again, that's like a huge leap of faith. Had you had money like saved up? Were you already making money from Alala? How did that work?
Yeah, so I left Chris right before I think like we were gonna like dig deep into, you know, like trying to sell the line into wholesalers and all that stuff. So it was a whole year of me working on the business before I quit my job. And I think it depends on the person, right? Like how much savings do you have? Like, you know, all the really practical things, like how are you going to pay your rent? Like how are you going to buy food to eat? Like, you know, who's paying for the Wi-Fi? Like you have to kind of like think about those things, I think, and not get like so excited about like just quitting and starting your business, because you know, making money in your business is going to take so much longer than you ever think it's going to take, right?
Say it louder for the people in the back.
Say that one again.
I feel like these days people have this like beautiful dream about being an entrepreneur, and I'm going to have so much freedom, I'm going to make so much money. And yes, those things could happen in the future, but they're not everybody's reality to begin with. You know what I mean?
It's so funny you say
rare.
that, because I literally just told Jess the other day, I was like, I want to make a TikTok about this because I feel like not enough people talk about how entrepreneurs who start their own business don't pay themselves for the first however long. And everyone thinks, oh, you have a successful business, things are going well, you're making money, you're racking it in. No.
No, no, no. So my advice really would be, as long as you long as you can kind of like stretch out, like staying at your job, maybe like starting your business part-time, really proving out, okay, like people want my product, people, you know, are going to pay for my product, I have a good product. Like the longer you can like do that in conjunction with, you know, having a little bit of stability in your life and in your salary and your money situation, like I think that's more comforting for a lot of people than jumping straight into it. And everybody's financial situation is different. So, you know, it depends what works for you. And I think you also have to be really honest with yourself about like the risk level that you have for yourself. Because some people get very nervous once their bank account drops under a certain number, you know, or they get nervous knowing, oh shit, like I just quit my job, I'm not going to have money after next month. And so I think that's an honest conversation you need to have, and like a very practical kind of like plan that you need to build out.
For sure. And like if you're, you know, you also I think have to have a really honest conversation with yourself on like I think also how much you like trust yourself, because you know there's certain people who like their business can like fail and like they know they'll be okay and they know that they'll pivot, and then there's some people who like are a little bit delulu and they're, you know, if their business fails they're going to be depressed, they're going to be, you know, like you can't necessarily have a super soft sort of, you know, demeanor in regards
Yeah.
to these things. You have to have a lot of grit if you
Yeah.
like truly want to make it, because, you know, failure, you know, quote unquote, is inevitable in entrepreneurship, but how you look at that failure is going to be what determines whether that failure is a learning lesson or whether that failure is your end all be all.
Yeah.
So
I totally agree.
yeah,
I think the
it's
big
tough.
realization for me was, you know, it's as much like a mental game as it is like a money game, as much as it is like
Oh, yeah.
a working hard game. Like
Big time.
you have to like acknowledge that you're going to have to go through some like mental challenges.
Yeah,
Oh,
totally. And that's why when we see solo founders, especially female founders, like I have so much respect and admiration for you, because doing it alone, it's like, you know, it's like double the work of a co-founder. Like you're
100%.
in it, you know.
Yeah.
On the topic of money and funding, I would love to highlight how you are self-funded, and if that was an intentional decision that you made going into the business, or if that's something that just kind of naturally happened along the way. And would love to know any insight about considering investors and then choosing to not go that route as well.
Yeah. I think for me, you know, Alala started at the time, like it was very trendy to get huge investments from venture capital people, right?
Sure.
Like the days of like Glossier and all these brands that were getting like big, big, big amounts of money.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I knew that, you know, there's a trade-off with everything. So getting the money meant that there was so much more pressure on those businesses to grow really quickly and to like prove to their investors that it was worth giving them all that money. And
Sure.
I wanted to be a little bit closer to my business to start out. Like I wanted to know all the parts of my business. I wanted to know how the business worked. And in a way, like I wanted to prove to myself that I could like do it myself.
Yeah.
And it's good and bad, you know? So are there days where I'm like, oh, I wish like, you know, when we were this stage in our business and people were really interested in talking to us about investment that we took some, like, sure, you know? And so, but I'm also glad that right now, like I've had the autonomy to make my own decisions over the last 9 years.
Mhm.
And I think like I'm in a position where I'm so much more ready to take on funding at this point in my business,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel so much more grounded in my business. I
Yeah.
know, okay, I know what the money's going to go to. I know, you know, how it's going to,
Yeah.
I just know that when the money comes in, like we're going to explode to the next level. Right.
Yeah.
And I get, you know, like 10 years into some of these businesses, even if they've gotten funded, you know, 30, 40, $50 million, like some of them are not around anymore.
Right.
And I think, you know, is that because they had so much money that they didn't need to pay attention to, you know, how they were spending it? They
Yeah.
didn't need to be as like scrappy as like,
Right.
you know, kind of like tight with their finances as I've had to be over the years.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's good and bad. You know, there's no right answer. It's the
Mhm.
answer that feels good for you. I think
Yeah.
right now in this economy and in this stage of like looking at businesses, a lot more people are obviously looking towards profitable businesses versus like the biggest businesses.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's something to think about as well.
Yeah.
No, I love that. And even like the other day, I saw a girlfriend who has never launched a business, and no shade to her at all, but she was like, "Oh, looking to launch a massive project, looking for venture capitalists, blah blah." Blah. And I was like, "How? Like if I was launching my first ever business, I don't think that I would ever reach out to like any sort of investor, because one, it's there's so much pressure there and it's so scary, and you don't know the ins and outs of business, and you just don't even know how it works. And Olivia and I have also been approached here and there by people either looking to like sell or buy our business or invest in it as well. And you know, we've always kind of ruminated on it and been like, oh, you know, that might be cool. But I think that, you know, what you just said, like how you're 9 years in and now you feel like you're in a place because you know exactly where the money would go, versus had someone invested in us, you know, early on, I don't
Yeah.
know if we would even know where to put that money, how it would work. like what that even looks like. And, you know, it's very easy to get taken advantage of by these investors who, you know, have invested in so many companies and like give them such a larger stake than, you know, the investment that they're providing you, or again, just piss away that money because you're investing in things that, you know, don't necessarily give you an ROI.
Yeah.
So I think that that's like honestly like the perfect answer. And if anyone was looking to create a business, I think that bootstrapping for as long as you can is definitely the way to go. And then only in, you know, until you really feel like you're at a place where you know exactly where that money's going to go, would you then consider investors.
Yeah. Yeah. I think everybody, again, it's like everybody has a different situation, a different business. So you got to think about whether it's right for you. Like
Yeah.
what I regret is, you know, like we had competitors who could be doing big events or like working with huge influencers because they had
Yeah.
all this cash, you know? And so, yeah, maybe their businesses are bigger than mine now. And maybe we should have taken a little bit of money for those things. But again, like, you know, you kind of weigh the pros and cons for yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do love though that now at this point, kind of piggybacking off what Jess said, that you would know exactly what you would do with it. And I think even that speaks volumes because it's like if it were offered back then and you were unsure of the decision to take it or not, for me, that's a no. And then versus now, if it were offered and you know you have such clarity on what the decision would be and where it would go and what it would do for your business, that's a yes. You know, like almost like if it's not a hell yes, it's a no, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I love
I'm
that.
curious, kind of on that same pulse. If you were to take on an investor right now, where would you put the money?
Great question. Great question. A lot of it, I think, for us right now would go into marketing just because, you know, we have a great product. I feel like our problem is that not enough people know about our product.
Yeah,
So
sure.
it's getting, you know, it's working on partnerships with, you know, maybe it's influencers or other brands and really collabing in a way that makes sense to like grow our brand awareness.
Mm,
It's making sure, you know, maybe we can do more pop-up stores where we're in cities where we know we're gonna like people are gonna love us, but they've never like had an experience with us before.
right.
And so for me, it would really be to kind of put ourselves out there more and get more of an audience looking at Alala because we have spent the last 9 years like building a beautiful product line and making sure the clothes are really great. It's just a matter of like getting more eyeballs on it.
Yeah, and I've been obsessed with Alala like since back in the day. Like I remember like 6 years ago being in LA and like wearing my like it was like the red, black, and white like tracksuit and like the matching jacket. And
Yeah.
like I was obsessed with it. It was like my airport fit till I died. I fucking lost the fucking leggings, but I still have the jacket and I was so sad because it's so comfy. And I've kept it all in. I obviously I get a lot of stuff and I try to get rid of so much stuff, but that is like one jacket that I've held on to because it's so cozy. And my little Alala sets I'm obsessed with as well. So guys, if you haven't tried them, 10/10 recommend. But do you guys actually have any brick and mortar stores?
So right now we do not.
Okay.
We've had stints where we've had them, but right
Yeah.
now.
Okay, cool. And how do you feel like that experience was? Because I feel like everyone's kind of dream at one point was to have a brick and mortar store. But I feel like more and more we kind of see brands transitioning to fully e-com just because it's so much more like lucrative, you know, more bang for your
Yeah.
buck.
I think you have to look at stores kind of as not just like a sales and profit center, but
Yeah.
also a thing. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I feel like if you can put the money and attention and energy into building a space or creating a space that has like community events and has like a lot of stuff going for it, that, you know, there are other benefits to having a physical space. Like my favorite thing about having a physical space was to spend an afternoon there and like talk to people coming in and
Yeah.
get like real-time feedback about product and fit and brands. You know, you don't get that when you are sitting behind a computer screen all day long. So
True.
I feel like there are elements of brick and mortar that are really wonderful. But there are also, you know, a lot of challenges to that. Like being in New York City, there are times of the year, like summer is a time where nobody's in the city, everybody's like out on the weekends, like in the Hamptons or wherever. So, your store is very quiet for a couple months. And no matter if you're doing gangbuster sales or you're doing zero sales, you still got to pay the rent, and still got to pay the girls who are in the store. So, for us, we definitely enjoy having a physical space. I think it's a matter of, where is that next door that we're going to have and what form does it really take?
I could really see you guys in Austin for some reason. Like if you had a brick and mortar, I feel like I thought it was in Austin for some reason. I'm just an Austin girly though. I love it. Kind of, and you mentioned like having that team as well. How many people are currently on your team? I'm sure you have a lot of like, different contractors and stuff, but what does that look like?
Yeah, so we are super lean and mean right now. We are 6 people, including myself.
Love that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's lean and I like it that way. I feel like, it's a huge responsibility to hire people. I don't know if you guys have other people on your team, but you're asking somebody to leave whatever job they had at maybe a big company and come to you.
Yeah.
And you're responsible for their well-being, their growth, their salaries, like all that stuff. And so, keeping a lean team for me, like one allows us to be a little more communicative with each other, right? Everybody's like very into each other, which is nice. But it also means that we're keeping some of our costs down as well. And I think, just hearing about everybody laying so many people off and it's terrible. It's terrible. It does terrible things to, those people's lives and their mental health. And so I think like hiring is something you really have to be conscious of and just realize how much of a responsibility you're really taking on.
Yeah, totally. I couldn't agree more. And honestly, I would say in our journeys personally, building a team has probably been the most challenging aspect of the whole thing, just because people are difficult. And when you don't have an HR department, and as founders, you are HR, it can be really hard. And it's hard to, want to do what's best for both parties. Like you're looking out, of course, for the business's best interest, but us especially, and I think our generation is really considerate of like our employees' best interest. Like we truly do want the best for them, and we want to pay them what they feel they deserve, and we want to give them, time off or a mental health day or whatever they need. We want to be supportive in their, not only in their jobs but in their life as well. But I would love to know any advice that you have for someone who is starting to build out a team or scale.
So my advice for someone who's starting, maybe it's just you right now. There are so many more opportunities now than there were when I started my business to have consultants, contractors, freelancers working with you. A lot of, even fractional C-level people, right? A fractional CMO or CFO. Take advantage of that. Like take advantage of, not having to bring somebody onto your payroll. Take advantage of, saying, okay, like maybe I could do 10 hours a month with a CMO or a CFO and kind of like feel out, is that really something that, I need full time? Is that really somebody that I can afford to bring in that's going to like generate the revenue that can pay for themselves? So for me, like, it's really about like, using as much freelance consulting help as you can at first, because I feel like you'll realize like, oh, like, did I really need like that person to do that thing? Like maybe it's not that thing that I really needed. Like maybe it's more like this other thing that I really need. And then you don't have, that responsibility and burden of firing somebody from a job that you hired them to do.
Right.
Yeah.
So for me, that's a big one.
That's amazing advice.
And with like Liv and I, we, in January, we launched a course teaching people how to become influencers assistants. And one of like the biggest things that we like are kind of educating in the space on is that you don't have to hire someone full time, and you don't have to work for someone full time. Influencers can hire someone for 10 hours a week, 20 hours a week, and these assistants can be assistants to 2 or 3 influencers. And even like one of my girlfriends, she owns a active wear line. She not wearing her little thing right now as well. And she I went down, sat down at lunch with her. I'm like, hey, how's it going? Like, how many people are on your team? Just, talking entrepreneur stuff. And she's like, yeah, like, I don't know. I just hired this girl for like 4K a month. And, I'm not really happy. Like, she's working full time. And I'm like, you do not need her working full time for you at all. What you need is someone who has flexible hours, who can just work the amount of hours you need. And so that you're not like throwing, like, she just doesn't have enough work for her. But she thought that she had to hire someone full time
Right.
and pay this person a full time salary and all these things. And I'm like, girl, in this day and age, there's so many people who obviously, and like, they want to work from home. They want to, they don't want this mundane 9 to 5. They want to, switch things up and work in different fields and have their, hands in different areas, because I think life is just a little bit more fun like that as well.
Yeah. And I think the thing that is really great about, freelancers or consultants right now is like, they're kind of running their own little business, right? And I feel like a lot more in that mindset of like, okay, I'm going to like be efficient with my time so I can like have, I can have time to bring on another client or do this and that. And, it's a different mentality also to like say, okay, I'm going to do this on my own versus like somebody who, again, like wants the stability of like a full-time salary, like every 2 weeks, I know I'm going to get paid. Like if I do a
Wow.
good or bad job, like I'm going to get paid,
So
So
true.
I think just relieve yourself of the pressure of having like a team to begin with, especially if you don't think you can really afford it, or you don't think that, like you said, need them 40 hours a week. Go the freelancer route.
That is such a great distinction, because it's true. These consultants and freelancers are building out their own little businesses, and they're treating, everyone as a client. They're going to do the very best. They're going to show up the most. They're going to be efficient with their time. Like, that is so true, versus someone you just hire full time and they're there and you're paying there to
They're
just kind of,
salaried.
like play with themselves and pick their nose and whatever. Like, that's such a great distinction that I never even like considered. So thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that.
And also, like, I think as an entrepreneur, not pressuring yourself to get someone to full time
Full
and
time,
not
yeah.
promising that, because that was a huge thing for Liv and I, is that we had hired someone to our creative agency, and like, her goal was to be full time with us, and for us that made sense. We were like, our dream is to have a full time team, blah blah blah. Like, we're gonna get you there. And we bent over backwards, like literally put our own business like in the negative to get this person to full time, when now that person has moved on to a full time role and she's super happy and we're super happy. But our current person in that role works less hours than she did, and like, the company is still getting run all the same, and she doesn't even want to work full time for us. She's doing her own things, and like, that has relieved so much like, just stress off of our backs, because we're not constantly wondering, okay, is she happy? Does she want to leave? Is she, are her bills paid? Like, we were always like, it was like on the forefront of our mind, and like, making that switch and, hiring someone for the role that like truly fits like a glove has been like a complete game changer for us.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you guys, kind of learned that lesson too. It's an important one.
Yeah.
Yes, I would say it took a little bit longer than necessary for us
Took
to learn
so
it.
long.
Honestly, and we didn't even learn it until it was a hindsight lesson more
Yeah.
than anything else.
Yeah.
We looked back and we were like, wait a second.
Yeah.
I would love to know, as a founder who has had this successful business and has seen the success that you have in the 9 years, what would be your best advice for, having that longevity and continuing to stand out? And does that look like pivoting for you? Have you pivoted through the years? Have you remained consistent and strong and, grounded in one theme? What does that look like for you? Because I think a lot of businesses, tend to sometimes have a high turnover, or they'll be around for a year or two and then it's not doing well, so they shut down. But like 9 years, that's incredible. And I would love to get your insight on, or your advice on how to last that long.
Yeah. I mean, to be like totally open and honest with you guys, like there have been times in this journey where I'm like, screw this. Like
Yeah.
I'm done. Like it's
Yep.
not worth it. Like I'm
Yep.
sure we've all been there where you're just
Yeah.
like, forget it. There's
Yeah.
like a million other things I could be doing
You're
with
like,
my
that was fun.
But I think for me, like it's been a personal journey of, being able to grow something of my own, and eventually, hopefully, it'll be something that someone else wants to take on and buy from me. But I believe like once you have a brand, you also have a platform. And so for me, when I have like tough days or the days I want to quit, like you think about the people that you're helping and serving, and yeah, it's clothes, but clothes have a lot of transformational power in themselves. And we also have a brand message, that doesn't have anything to do with the clothes, right? We're all about like inclusivity and diversity and making sure like, we have those messages in our branding and our mission. And so, just knowing that you're making someone's day better by giving them an outfit they love to wear. You are, maybe showcasing somebody who doesn't see themselves a lot on social media, and giving them a reason to be happy and joyful that day. Like those are the things that keep me going, I think, through the difficult times. Yeah, for me, it's a journey that I'm excited to kind of see the next chapter of. And I think, Jess, you said it, like the big vision is there, and then you can't lose sight of kind of your big vision and your why, your personal why, but also the why of the brand you started. And so, yes, you're going to have difficult times. Yes, you're going to have times where you want to like just quit and go sit on a beach for a month and not talk to anybody. But, that's kind of what keeps me going. And again, like going back to team, so we were an all-female team, and a lot of the girls have been with me for a very long time, like 5, 7 years.
Oh, wow. That's great.
And so in a way, like, when I get really like stressed out or like I'm not feeling like so good about the business, like a lot of time, like they can sense it. Like I won't tell them straight out, but like, someone will come in and be like, hey, let's try this, or like, hey, let's do this,
So sweet.
And it's amazing. And I think very humbling when you realize that, people believe in your vision so much that they're going to stick with you for that long, and give their careers to you for that long. So that's really meaningful as well.
That gave me goosebumps.
And I think that speaks volumes about you as a founder, that people have been there for 7 years. Like that is
100%
a huge green flag.
Yeah. It's a big one. It's something I'm really proud of.
You should be. You really should be.
And kind of on that same note of like, the big vision, what do you feel like is next for you?
Yeah. I want to impact more women. So for me, it's about, again, like reaching more eyeballs. I feel like our mission really is to, and we say like inspire a life that moves you. So not just through the clothes, but also through like, our messaging and our branding. Like we want women to feel really sophisticated and chic in our clothes, but also feel like, they have this love of life that they can express through Alala as well. So for me, it's just getting out there, meeting more women, getting Alala on more women and making them happy through our clothes.
I love that. Well, you're doing that today because I love my sets. I can't wait to wear them to yoga. I'm very excited. And this whole conversation has been so amazing and inspiring. And honestly, I feel like I have a bunch of notes. I feel like we just got a little mentorship session. So we so appreciate your time and your wisdom. If people want to follow you and your journey, where can they find more?
Yeah, so I share a lot of kind of like my experience and tips and stories on both Instagram and TikTok. So that's Denise X Lee on Instagram and TikTok. And then if you want to follow Alala, we are at Alala on Instagram and at Alala_official on TikTok.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Denise, again, and especially because I've been, a fan of Alala and like kind of working with you guys for so long. It's been, an honor to have you on our pod and such like a full circle moment. So thank you again for joining us. And brothers, if you guys liked this episode, please take a screenshot, tag us, tag Denise, tag Alala. We would love to see that you love this episode and it's impacted you. And we will see you again in 2 weeks.
Bye, guys.